Yes, my Lord.
I asked you specifically about 1.6 million voters said not to have been identified by the Kim's kit.
Yes.
And he's disputing, he's saying you are following some other mechanism which is not allowed by law. Can you clarify that?
My Lord, that is not the position.
Is the microphone on?
Yes, I think it is on. My Lord, to the question, so the 44A says that any person who is not identified by biometrically, then you go to a complementary mechanism.
Yes.
The complementary mechanism that you are talking of, when someone talks of alphanumeric search, the court should be mindful, what does it mean? Alphanumeric search, and I have explained to you, there are three modes within which the Kim's kit identifies a person. The first mode is through the biometric, through the fingerprint. And I've said 5.5 million Kenyans were identified through the fingerprint on the 26th of August, the thumbprint. For the persons whose thumbprint cannot be read, what we do is we take the ID cards and we have an MRZ scanner. And that ID is scanned, his details pop up. What we tell is localization, because you are looking through 7,000 fingerprints in one kit, 700 people times 10 fingerprints. And even when you go to hospital, sometimes, my lords, you will get a false acceptance rate. You are told you have a disease which you don't have when this tested, so they are false negative. So, but when we localize for 10 fingerprints, we lower the false rejection rate, the rate which someone can be told that he is not in the Kim, but he actually is. So, when we do the documentary search with the MRZ scanner, the ID of the person does not come in. Now, the third aspect is what happens when, for senior citizens, persons who have not kept their ID and passports very well. We take the ID details, we'll take their names and the ID number. What happens is the Kim's kit now will produce their details, both the 10 fingerprints as well as the ID details, the biographic data. After that, we tell them, because maybe their thumbprint, because we start with the thumbprint, does not have all the details, we tell them to put any of the other fingers, some of them the 10, others the 9. Then we identify them. So the idea that through alphanumeric search, it means that some person has not been identified biometrically is not true. In fact, you are identified through your ID details, and secondly, you are identified through biometric. The complementary mechanism that it has in mind, because all those people are identified through the Kim's kit, and they are identified biometrically. The complementary mechanism that we don't have is what happens to the person who cannot, even after the alphanumeric search, his details do not come in.
Okay.
Then the manual complementary mechanism kicks in, which is we have the physical register. There's a process for even that. We have a physical register. We look through the register. It has their biographic data, the ID and everything, and we look through it and we cancel out. We put that register after the end of the polling station into the ballot boxes, where 32A has also been generated, which is put there. So the idea is you have to understand the Kim's kit for you to actually make some of those submissions that they are making. And every person has been identified through that process.
So the alpha, what do you call it?
The alphanumeric search.
Yes, it's part of the identification.
Ends up with a biometric identification.
Okay. All right. Yes, Soweto, you heard where you are supposed to go fishing.
My Lord, let me start first by dealing with the question of where we're supposed to go fishing.
Yes.
I think my colleagues are taking advantage of my being a lady.
Huh?
Just a minute. Just a minute. My lords,
Ladies, don't
the-
fish.
My lords, the first and second respondents served us with their response at 1 a.m. yesterday. We waited for them. One of the things they say they served us with is this hard disk. It was not served on us. It was not given to us. As it is, by the time they showed up at 1 a.m., they were way out of time. We were courteous to them, we waited for them, we received their documents. The hard disk was not one of those documents. Later on in the day, at about 12:38 p.m., somebody from the IBC brought the hard disk to us and said it had fallen out accidentally. By the time we had already filed our application. So if it is to look for these documents, or we being accused of not having read what they had given us, it is not true, because we did not have it. That was just to set the record straight. My lord, we have been accused of not reading.
Before you go there, now that you have that key, hard disk, do you want us to give you time to peruse through it and see whether the information you seek is there, so that we don't even have to rule over this on this application?
My lord, I think that might not be necessary, because what we want is live access, not pre-downloaded data whose origin is not verifiable. And I say this with the caution that the last time in the August petition, this was one of the issues that came up, because the first and second respondent, did not want to give live access to their documents or to their servers. They wanted to give pre-downloaded forms or pre-downloaded data that could not be verified, could not be ascertained. So it is not helpful that they claim they have given us this data that has already been pre-downloaded. It also goes to deal with the issue that there are several different types of forms out there. That, of course, raises then the question as to why do we have different returns. My clients, who were observers in the field, obtained forms. Those forms are different from what the first and second respondent uploaded onto their portal. The question is, why are they different? The purpose of scrutiny is then to verify the information or the data, because these forms were availed by the first and the second respondents. If they do not correspond with what is in the KIMS data, which should have captured the details, then this court must determine. Again, we talk about forgery fraud, which was an issue that arose out of the last election. The verifiability, the authenticity of the documents and the returns that are filed by the second respondent. It is important.
Have you exhibited the forms you have yourself?
Yes, my lord, and I was...
Which are different from the ones IBC has...
we have.
Yes.
I was coming to that, and we have been accused of not pleading these matters. In the affidavit of Billy Atudo, because scrutiny arises out of our pleadings and our affidavits, the affidavit of Billy Atudo addresses this question thoroughly. It is in volume 5 all the way to, and the annexures from volume 5 to volume 14, where he addresses even the Muranga forms, the Garissa forms. We have produced all 100 of them. We have produced the ones that have been availed by IBC, from the ones we got from the IBC portal, and the ones that our observers produced. In the application, we simply made it easier by putting them together side by side so that it is easier for reference. But they are all part of the affidavit. and the annexures already filed in court in support of the petition. I have said from volume 5 all the way to volume 14. They are referred to also for reference to where in the affidavits they are found. It is paragraph 35 to the end, and also from paragraphs 3, we talk about the forms and the discrepancies in the forms. My Lord, on the question, on the issue of the complementary method of identifying voters, the 1.6 million voters, the law is very clear. The Elections General Amendment Regulations 2017 at Regulation 31, my Lord, and I can do no better than to read what the law already provides and compare it with what the IBC gave, the instructions they gave to their presiding officers. Regulation 69 was amended at subregulation E that in case the electronic voter identification device fails to identify a voter, the presiding officer shall invite the agent